Another day, another chance, another way, another dance. Today I'm going over another chapter of JavaScript for Kids for Dummies. Today it'll be a chapter on something that I was working on so far. So it's pretty much like a word game, chapter 10 game. So yeah. So I'm gonna be doing this with a colleague of mine called Ernest, and yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, thanks, Ernest. Let's get to this, man. So creating your own JavaScript Word game. That's what's gonna be done here. The JavaScript Word game is gonna be created here. So word placement gives you a basic story structure, allows you to supply different parts of speech, nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and so on. If you think about it, these words are very similar to JavaScript web apps, right? So they're very similar to one another, right? So the basic structures provided by the HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript code. The variables in the JavaScript code are what make the results of the program different every time it's run. This chapter should create a word placement game by using the string concatenation operator to combine the words and with the story. So our game is eventually going to look like this. So it's got like the verb, root. So it's pretty much got everything that we have. So yeah. So creating a variable story. So this is a variable story that you're gonna have. So you're gonna have an adjective, verb ending in ing, room and house, color plural noun, past tense verb, beverage, type of music and different room and house, mention past tense verb, adjective, name of animal, name of city, and verb, man. So that's pretty much what you're going to have, man. So yeah. That's what you're gonna have. So that's what it's supposed to look like, So yeah, this book is just gonna go over like the different functions that you need to add in different codes. So let me go over the HTML sector of this. So for HTML, right, what you need to do for HTML is you need to press shift, exclamation mark, enter. Then what that will do is it'll pretty much set up the whole framework for HTML. So you'll be able to display it on your web page. So it's gonna give you doc type HTML language, head, body, so on and so forth, and then you're gonna give you the closing tags for what I just mentioned. So within your body, you're gonna have a div ID called input words. So an ID is pretty much for singular, it's pretty much for like a singular code that you got or singular value that you have. So you only got one column for for inputting words. So you got an unordered list. And within that unordered list, you just got a basic list, no bullet points, no numeric values, nothing, just just placeholder tabs and yeah, pretty much everything that you need, and just ID elements that your JavaScript will make use of to add values to it. So this is what you're going to see on your web page. So this alone is just going to give you like the framework for what you're going to be dealing with, but it won't give you like the functions. The functions will come just now when you work the JavaScript. But for now, we have to work with what you can see on the HTML. And to make it look better, we're going to be dealing with like CSS, but that will come later on. So for now, we just want to work on what you'll be able to see on the web page, which will be on the HTML. So you got your list, which is input type or li input type text. So that makes sure that anything that you put in is going to be a text. So that's going to be input type. Your ID is going to be adjective 1. This is going to be useful when you work in the JavaScript, as you need to make references to what code you wanna add a function to in your JavaScript. So ID adjective 1 and then adjective. So this section right here is going to be displayed. So what's between the opening tag for BR and closing tag for LI, this is going to be displayed, right? And then same thing here, type text, ID, verb ing, that's going to be the ID that your JavaScript trying to need when it's trying to add a function to this code altogether. And then you got this name. This is the name that you're going to be seeing on your web page. And below your placeholder, so verb ending in ing. As you can see here, the white text, the one that I just highlighted, is what you're going to be seeing on your web page. Same thing here, room and house, color, non-plural, plural noun, past verb, beverage. So pretty much the same thing, And then you got your div ID. Again, this is for your JavaScript, your ID elements for your JavaScript. Button div, then button ID, replace it, button div ID story, script source word game.js. So the reason why we've got a source for our script source for our JS is because what our JavaScript is going to do is not only is it going to add like an accessible code that you can access on our Java, via our web page, but it also adds functionality to our HTML. So our script source is going to source out all the functionality that has everything to do with the button types that we've got here, right? So WordGame.js, the JavaScript of our game, is responsible for like the functionality. So we want to source it out to our HTML to make sure that not only can we access our front end through our HTML, but we can access the functionality that we get from our back end via the JavaScript. So all in all, we actually have like a full stack relationship between our HTML and our JS. So button div, right? Button ID, replace button. Then the name of the button, so we replace it. And then you got a div ID equals story, right? Then script source, word game. So the reason why you got a div ID called story is because what it's going to do is it's going to take the stories that we have in our JavaScript and pretty much source it out so HTML, so you'll be able, when we actually run it with the replace button, which has been executed from our events list now in the JavaScript, we'll be able to get a full-on story. So we also, for our href, within our head, right, we got a word game.css. So what this does is going to take the aesthetic enhancements that CSS would give to our HTML or our front end, and we'll source it out, or source it in actually to our HTML. So we make like a href or reference to our .css. So this is actually going to take our game and make it look better. So let's go to our JavaScript then. So now JavaScript, we've got our let. So a let, what it does is it takes our variable, it takes our variable, it takes our variable and makes sure that instead of making it global, it takes our our variable and makes it like local. So we won't be having a variable, a global variable like what we have in our var. It's gonna be made local, and it's only gonna be accessible from within the code. So replace button, document get element by ID, replace button. So the replace button, right? The button that we got now, HTML, is being given like a local variable. It's being given like a local variable. So replace button. So as you can see here, the word place button is there, right? What you need to do is add some functionality to it. So what's gonna happen is, come on now. So what's gonna happen is you're gonna add like an event listener and all sorts to it, man. So we're gonna create a variable for it, a local variable using let's replace button. Then document get element by ID. So this actually, what this does is document get element by ID. What it does is it actually helps our JS actually like locate the button that we have on our HTML by getting it via an ID. So obviously we create an ID for our document. Our documents can be word game.html get element by ID. So that's the reference that we need to make in order to get our elements from our HTML. Then the button that we're referring to is replace button. So in order for our replace button to be effective, what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to add like the event listener called add event listener, click then replace it. Right, replace button dot add event listener, click comma replace it, function replace it. Right, replace button dot add event listener, click replace it, function replace it. Right, so that all of that is going to be local because we're using a let variable instead of like a var variable. VR would have made it like global, but we want to make it local, so I'll use like a let, click, comma, replace it. So as soon as we click click on our mouse once, or just left click it once, what the event listener will do is it will run our replace it button, right? So our replace it variable has an event listener called click. That's when you click your mouse once and then you place it, right? It's making reference to like the button that we have on our HTML, the button that's being displayed, man, in our web page. So replace it. Let's story div document get element by ID, right? So what that does is it refers to like our ID that we have in our HTML, right? As you can see here, we got an ID here, which is story. So this is what we got here, right? Div ID story. Right, so yeah, that's what you got. So it's story div document get element ID story. So story div adjective one, your span class. So what this does is pretty much spans or wraps around our class, the class that we got, So that's what it does, just wraps around it. So it takes the value, takes the value that you add for replacement, right, and wraps around like replacement. That's what it wraps around. That can get in by the adjective, that value. So that's what it does. We need to make sure that's gonna wrap around, like wrap around like our adjective one, our variable. And obviously our variable refers to the names that we've got on our HTML. For example, adjective one refers to the first adjective that you have here. That's what it refers to. As you see on the HTML, and that's what it refers to, So HTML, So let me go to this, man. So this as for one's the ID, and this refers to like the words that you find on our web page. So what it does is it wraps what our span class does. It just wraps around the code that you got on our HTML, right? So verb being same thing here. Get element ID as of one dot value. Then obviously we need like a value, right? So that value. So this pretty much allows us to add like a value to adjective. So same thing here. For our let variable, verb being same thing there, span class replacement. I can get element ID verb, yada yada yada. So this, what I just mentioned just now, works pretty much in the same way for the rest that we have here. So for our let story, so what this does is it takes the ID that we've got already, the ID that we've got in our HTML, right? What it does is it takes our if ID element, right, on our HTML and creates and allows us referencing it to sort of like create a story. So you got a story div, then you got the story which is one. Then what this does is it takes the adjective that you added, right? Adjective that you added here, and pretty much wraps it into the story or encases it into the story. So one adjective, one day, Douglas was verbing in his. So obviously you might be confused with the English that I'm talking about right now, but what you need to know is all the text in blue, is all the values that you're gonna is all the placeholders for the values, right, that you're gonna be using, that you're gonna replace these placeholders with. So as the verbing, Douglas was verbing in his room and house, reading a book about color, not plus in noun plural. As he paused verb his beverage, he heard music type playing in the diff room. He explained as he paused verb downstairs to join the adjective dance party. Douglas danced the animal dance, the city twist, and took the prize for dancing the best electric verb. This type of stuff only happens in what the plus equal, so what this part of the code does, what it does is plus equal, what it does is what it does is it adds like values, so it adds like values to the already existing variable without replacing the variable that we have already. So it takes the already existing variable, right, and adds values to that already existing one without replacing it at all. So plus equals, so take the addition sign as a sign where you add, then the equal sign is a sign that we're not like, we're pretty much keeping the value that we had before the same, right? But with the addition of that additional sign, then we've got our story div that introducing out the story. So the rest of the story, right? What this does is takes our story div, the spanning, right, for a story div, then it references via the HTML and make sure that that equals to the story. So let variable story, which is equal to this, has to be equal to the story div that HTML that we've got in our HTML. Like I said before, the JavaScript builds the functions and value addings for HTML. So what this does is it takes the stories which have got like functions and make sure the story div that in the HTML, the stuff that we've got in our HTML, that is equal to that. So that's what it does, man. Yeah. So that's pretty much the description for the full stack relationship that we have. But now I need to dive into the gist that we need to talk about, in regards to the way our HTML is actually going to look on the front end. So for CSS, so it takes the words for our fonts, right, and make sure that they are Comic Sans MS. Takes our input words, make sure that they float to the left. Words, make sure that the 45% list style type none, padding 0px, margin 0px, line height 2em, text transform uppercase, text align center, margin top 30px, width 20px, hashtag story margin top 12px, width 45%, border 1px, cache blue, padding px, float left, text decoration underline, text transform uppercase. Yeah. So what I'm yeah, so yeah. Yeah, sorry, yeah, okay. So our hashtag pretty much refers to like a singular ID, and then our dot refers to like a plural class. So that's what it refers to. So either like the margin width, border patterns, and everything that we need, to make sure that pretty much spruce up our HTML, make it look better. So dashed blue, yeah, so that's what it does, man. So let's get to this, you know what I mean? So let's play the game. Okay, it's time to play the game, man. Right, so amazing. Right, okay. So yeah, if I'm looking down the camera, it's because there's some photos that talk of the values that I'm adding. So yeah, I'm just looking at my phone now. So drank, verb, coca, cola, right? A temporary. Explanation, I'm going, right, down to the garage, right? And then our verb, stepped, crazy, okay? Then you got the animal, you know. So yeah, amazing resting, bedroom, red cars, drank, garage, I'm going down the garage steps, crazy, tiger, durban, dancing, right? And then press the button, place it, then there you go. So you got a heading, the one that we added now, HTML, or heading, right? Okay. So input words, this and that, okay. Right, so yeah. Douglas's dance party, one amazing day. Douglas was resting in his bedroom reading a book about red cars. As he drank Coca-Cola, he heard contemporary music playing in the bedroom. I'm going, I'm going down to the garage, he exclaimed. As he stepped downstairs to join the crazy party. Douglas danced the tiger dance and the Durban twist and took the prize for dancing the best electric dancing. This type of stuff only happens in South Africa, so that's part that I've added. So that sentence is what I've added there. Okay, so the part that I added was I input type text ID country. Then let country span class replacement document get then ID country dot value span. The story plus equals this type of stuff only happens in plus the variable that we got now, let variable that we have there, plus our let variable, then full stop. The plus equals, make sure that we not only do we not replace the value, hence the equal sign, but we add to it, hence the additional sign. So div out the story. So let the story equals h1 dance party. So what this does is it takes our let variables, and then it takes the additional strings that you've got that have been concatenated with the let variables that you've got on top, pretty much merges them, and then yeah. Hence you got the story that you have here. That was the dance party. The story that I just told you. And if you want to see the code, press inspect, and then right click on inspect, and then you pretty much like go to elements part of your console, and you go through it. Yeah, that's just about it actually, Yeah, I don't think I got anything else to explain. That's pretty much it. So thank you very much for bearing with me. Until next time, take care, Lord bless you. Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, Ernest, thank you. This thing's so on.